I dedicated my new book, Reclaim Your Life After Trauma, to those that feel or have felt that they are trapped in an inescapable cage. And the reason I dedicated the book to those that feel trapped is because I felt trapped for so long. Like I felt that that was all my life was about, was suffering. So much of my life, I just turned 40, and so much of those 40 years on earth have been painful, immensely painful. And I thought that's what life was just about pain. And I thought that the suffering would only end in death. And that's why I contemplated suicide on a daily basis for years, is because I just felt trapped by my trauma and that I was condemned to a life of misery. Because everywhere I looked, I could see the devastation that was left behind because of my trauma. And that's why, trauma can be so devastating, is because it infiltrates every aspect of our life. It affects relationships, it affects our career, it affects our finances, it affects our health, it just affects everything. And so it's very easy to get stuck in that pattern of just looking at the devastation that's been left behind, the pain, that's been associated with the trauma, and everything that comes in the aftermath, of the trauma. And, it's interesting because a video that I did recently, I covered how, many of us, including myself, hide our pain with a smile, and how, because I'm very bubbly and happy by nature, and I always portray positivity to the world, that people, especially ones that don't know about my traumatic history, think that, I'm just happy-go-lucky and nothing bad has ever happened, and I have no idea about suffering. But actually, quite the opposite is true. Is I smile even though I'm in pain, and I look for beauty all around me, even though there's examples of devastation all around me. And in that video, I talk about, the downside to smiling and why we do it, and why me in particular, why I do it, and, how to handle that. But there is another reason I didn't cover in that video of why I smile so much. And it's because we have a choice every single day when we wake up of how we're going to face the day. We can choose to either look for beauty all around us, or we can choose to focus on the pain behind us and the pain all around us. And throughout the day, we continually have that choice. Are we going to focus on pain or beauty? Every single day, and throughout every day, pain or beauty, we have a choice of what we're going to focus on. And I don't have to try that hard to find pain. I've been, as I said, surrounded by it for most of my life. And well, the world's a pretty harsh place. And news media, they know that humans have a negativity bias. So we have a preference for negative news. It's part of how we've evolved. It's part of our survival instinct. We're more likely to pay attention to negative news because we want to know about possible threats to our survival. And that's why the news outlets, they focus primarily on devastation, because they know that it's going to get higher ratings and more engagement than positive media, positive news stories. And it's just how we're wired, is we have to really put an effort to looking for the positive and wanting to actually focus on the positive. And so what I was saying is, we don't have to try hard to look for pain, but we have to try harder to look for blessings and beauty. Okay. But it's really there. Beauty is all around us. And I know it sounds very cliche, but it's true. Like every single day of our life, we can find something to be grateful for and something beautiful in every moment of our existence. And why I want you to realize this is because it's exciting and it's empowering to know that every single day and every moment of every single day, we have a choice between choosing pain or beauty. And so I ask you every single day to ask that question of yourself: what am I going to focus on today, pain or beauty? And understand that pain is never going to be a hard choice because it's going to be easy. You're going to have an abundant amount of things to look toward, but beauty is going to be a harder mission. You're going to have to purposely seek it out, and you're going to have to hold on to it. And it takes a lot of effort. And that's why some days it requires a constant decision making. Okay, I'm not going to focus on the pain. I'm looking for the beauty. And it's changed everything for me, that mindset of focusing on the beauty versus the pain. Because when I was focusing on all the devastation, like I said, I didn't want to live. I was extremely promiscuous. I was just harming my body in so many different ways. I just hated life. And so when I was just focusing on pain and devastation, I was miserable. I mean, my life sucked so much so, again, I didn't want to live because it was so terrible. So I'm telling you that this choice between pain and beauty that you have every day, it's not simple, and it's not easy, and it's hard to some days choose to overlook all the devastation that you have surrounding you. But the moment you can look through the misery and beyond it, you'll be able to see that there's new possibilities for your future. Okay. And that's what that did for me. The moment that I started shifting the narrative about my life, once I started to shift that narrative that life was only about suffering and the suffering would only end upon death. I mean, very destructive narrative. So once I started to shift that narrative into, well, actually, life isn't all bad. There is examples of beauty. And once my mind started to look for those examples, I could find them all around me. And so if you're not familiar, I was a professor for 12 years, and I taught anatomy and physiology for most of those years, so all about the human body. And in the human brain, I just love the human brain, love teaching about it, studying about it. And there's a part of our brain called the reticular activating system. It's often abbreviated as RAS. And our RAS is very fascinating because it acts as like a filtration system in our brain. So like our brain, so the top, outer portion of our brain, the cerebral cortex, is where, higher order functioning occurs, and it's where most of our decision making occurs. But that part of our brain is constantly bombarded with stimuli. Constantly information is coming in from the external environment and the internal environment in the form of sound and light and different kinds of sensations, from temperature and touch and pressure and pain, and all sorts of stimuli are coming in to our brain all the time. And so what the job of the reticular activating system is to filter things out and help. It's like the gatekeeper to the cerebral cortex, that part of the brain that does the decision making. And so what the RAS does is says, okay, this is unimportant. We don't need to send it further. Okay. But if it is important, it will send it on for processing. And why I'm bringing this up is that we can tell our RAS what is important by what we focus on. And so if we tell our RAS that looking for pain and negativity and destruction is important to us, it's going to go looking for it. It's going to let that information through anytime we access it and make our attention be called to it so we can look at it and bring it in. But it's also true. If we tell our reticular activating system that it's important to us that we look for beauty, and things to be grateful for, our RES will start allowing that information through. And that's the coolest thing about it. And what is so exciting about it is that means we have control over how we experience our days. And so it's empowering to know that we have a choice in every single moment of every single day of our life, that we can focus on beauty instead of pain, even if we're surrounded by pain. Because if we tell our brain that we want to focus on beauty, it'll go to work in making sure that that information clears through the RAS and makes it up to the cerebral cortex so we can process it and hold on to it. And so, yes, it takes practice to focus on the positive. Again, when you have example upon examples of devastation around you, but the possibilities are endless for your life when you start seeking out beauty all around you. And I now live a life that I never previously dreamed was possible for me. And I know that it's not the end. Like, I know better is yet to come, because I am constantly filling my mind with positivity, not just by looking for it in my environment, but purposely putting it into my mind. So I am constantly, if you know, like I still listen and engage, and listen to or engage in 1 to 3 hours of personal and professional development every single day of my life. And I've done that for years now. And so why I say this to you now is because throughout the day, when I'm cleaning, doing the dishes, or, whatever I'm doing, folding laundry, or, washing my face, whatever I'm doing, I have something positive on, something uplifting, or something that's changing my mindset, or I'm learning something positive is coming into my mind, something that can change my way of thinking. And because I have chosen again and again and again to allow myself to be receptive to new ways of experiencing life, I'm continually growing and transforming. That's why I named my first book and my keystone coaching program Transformation After Trauma, because I truly believe that's what's possible. Before, I wanted to die because of my devastation, but now I see my devastation as being beneficial to me. I now am able to look at my traumas and look at all the ways it's benefited me, and all the ways that it's catapulted me into this life that I never previously dreamed was possible for me. And I know that I am now on a trajectory to experience life in even better ways. And I don't believe that I could have done any of it without the immense adversity that I've faced in my life. And so that's what I want you to know, that this constant decision between choosing pain or beauty, has changed everything for me. And we can change how we experience life by just shifting the stories we tell ourselves and shifting what we choose to place our focus on. And that's empowering. That means that our unchangeable past can stay where it belongs, in the past. And it means that we can dictate our future. And our future doesn't need to be determined by something that happened to us in our past and based on something we did or didn't do in our past. Every single day is a new day to reinvent yourself. And I feel like I have done it over and over again. Like I said, I'm 40 years old and I feel like I've lived multiple lives. And I was so excited when I turned 40, because I'm so excited for what's to come. Because most of the transformation I've experienced in my life has happened in the past 5 years. And those years have been phenomenal. And so I'm like, if these last 5 years have been this spectacular, what else is coming? And I'm excited. And it all happened because I shifted that narrative and I shifted my point of focus. And I want you to know that whatever is possible for one human is possible for you and every other human. Because the other thing I know from studying about the human and teaching about the human body for so many years is I know there is minimal differences from one human to another on a physiological level. So inside of us, our chemistry, and on a DNA level, there are minimal differences between us. I know we may look different on the outside, but inside you can barely tell the difference between us. And what is so exciting about that is that, again, what is possible for one human is possible for every other human. And what's really sort of fascinating, though, about human nature is humans like to dismiss themselves and their potential by saying, oh, they're special or they're extraordinary in some way. But you know why people do that? They do that so they can let themselves off the hook. So they don't have to do the work of changing how they're experiencing life. They, there's, even if we're experiencing pain, it's easy to find comfort in our discomfort because it's a known quantity. And when we're happy, there's something to lose. And when you know suffering, you're comfortable in what you know. And so some people are scared to leave their comfort zone, even if it's painful. And so if you're in that boat where you want to, when you listen to the stories of others and how they've overcome, and you say, well, they've had an advantage because they've been able to accomplish that because. No, what you're doing is you're letting yourself off the hook. And what I want you to know is that what is possible for me and anyone else you see is possible for you. And so if I could take the fact that I was sexually violated by 8 men, I was attacked from behind at knife point and found the love of my life dead when I was 25, if I could take all of that and put it aside and say, I'm leaving that in my past and I'm propelling into a future that I never thought was possible. If I can do that, you can do that too. And it's exciting, and that's why I feel like life is an adventure and every day is an adventure. And that's what that simple practice and focusing on beauty instead of pain has done for me, is it's allowed me to see beauty in every moment and opportunity for the next decades of my life. And I'm going to live multiple more versions of myself in those remaining decades of my life. And I'm excited for what's to come. And so I encourage you to consider making the choice every day to choose beauty over pain and do it over and over again, regardless of how many examples of pain you have around you, because beauty's always worth it. And where there's a little bit of beauty, there's always more around the corner. And I know that for a fact, so I hope you treat life as a journey, and that even if you've had some potholes and stumbling blocks and gotten some bumps and bruises along the way, it's just part of the journey. And we're all going to get bumps and bruises, and we're all going to get sidelined, and we're all going to get hobbled now and then, and we're going to have scars from our past, but the road doesn't stop, it keeps on going. And I encourage you to see where that road takes you. And if you're not happy on the current road you're on, well, chart a new path. You don't necessarily have to take a path that's already been followed by other people. I'm an avid hiker, and I do a lot of bushwhack hikes where there's no trail, or you use a map and compass, or you make a beeline for the summit, even if there's no trail. And so I want you to know that if you're not happy on the path you're on now, you can pivot at any moment you choose. It's your choice. And I hope you make the choice to enjoy every day you have, because it's worth it. Thanks for listening. Bye bye.